Moira Vetter from Modo Modo.
First, I'd like to thank Setup for facilitating the introduction with Carrier. I think that's important to say, right? We're all here because Setup does such a great job connecting brands and agencies. And so we're extremely thankful for this relationship. If you go ahead to the next slide. So we're Modo Modo. We're a branding and marketing firm. We have heavy depth in B2B, and that requires us to have long-term relationships that are very strategic. And so in this relationship with Carrier, this is where we began with them. It was the beginning of a joint venture between Carrier and Midea, and it was very complex in that you have two partners coming together. You have a very complex dealer network and channel. You have a category that is newer and therefore unknown to consumers, and also heavily unknown to the distribution dealer network. So there were a lot of things to suss through very quickly to put together a brand launch. So if you want to move ahead. So in building the foundation, first we started with go-to-market strategy and launch, and really understanding what are the strengths of the Midea brand that we need to build in, and then, how do we bring to the table all that is great about Carrier in, formulating this launch strategy, and really understanding where are the gaps between the B2B reality and their awareness of ductless as a category, and B2C. And this was one where, as a full service firm, it was really important that we had traditional chops as well as digital, forward-looking ways to connect with consumers, because the dealer distributor channel required all of that traditional stuff. And so we're going to go through, if you go to the next slide, we're just going to walk through, all of the work over time. So we started with, of course, what is our messaging strategy? How are we going to connect? What is the journey, both from the B2B side and B2B? So if we're going through awareness and consideration and helping people make an informed decision, particularly in a category that they do not understand, what are all these tools, educational tools and devices that they will use in order to understand what this category can do for them. And then really what we're trying to do is push and pull B2B and B2C together. So you'll see here in the middle layer, we have the conversation, right? How do we facilitate the connection? And when you talk about retail or driving traffic, particularly when you are trying to get people into physical locations like retail and dealer distributor, it's critical that you begin your concepting at the point where they meet, and that's what we did. So if you go to the next slide. Collateral. So I just have to say, a cost of entry, we did more than 100 product sheets. We did 7 different catalogs that were branded for different dealer networks, because there is a vast way that Carrier comes to market and gets out into the world. So we had to do this. This was a cost of entry for the existing channel, the B2B channel, in order to kind of move to the next step with them. So if you go to the next slide. So yes, we did all this foundational, traditional stuff, but then how do we really bring it all to fruition together? And so this is an example of how we put together a full complement, with real full service discipline of digitally, here's what has to exist for consumers to become educated, and not just educated, but engaged and interested in what this is. Here is how collateral needs to be developed, but guess what? It also needs to be engaging. It can't be dry and engineering focused. And bringing video in that really helps people sort of stimulate their curiosity about this category, and explain to them the flexibility and the benefits of something like this. And then all the way into in-store, how do you, take some of these technologies and pull the brand in to the actual physical environment. And in fact, we've talked further with Tim, our dear client at Carrier, about how you actually bring that into the building, into your office. And that's something that we very commonly are doing. When you're developing a brand, it's not just for a buyer, right? It is for everyone that is a stakeholder in bringing that to fruition, be it the employees, the distributor channels, or consumers that actually buy. Next slide. This was a sales kit tool that was for use at that point of intersection I talked about, the point of conversation where the dealer channel may not have the footing in this new category that they once had. And so these tools help them facilitate the conversation with the consumer. And we were moving towards getting out of the paper business with, can we deliver this collateral on a thumb drive instead of all these physical pieces? Next slide. And so early wins, so we've been working with Carrier over 3 years over time, but right out of the gate, you know, the proof in the pudding was the dealers, you know, woke up and took notice. We were able to convert competitor dealers to the Carrier MyDia brand. Sales went up, RFIs came in, we were facilitating that conversation. So that was the beginning. If you go to the next slide. So then, where do we go from here? Well, where we go from here is more engagement with those consumers. And I think this has been a common theme today, right? You want to get out in the market, but then you need to understand what more information do people need? What things are they drawn to? How can we better describe what this is? And so doing that more so in the digital arena. And then if you go to the next slide, where we are finally arriving now is, now we are working in partnership with a major home store and really helping Carrier cement that partnership further, where we're not just pushing our product into retail. We want to know, what is the retailer focused on? What technologies are they using? What kind of traffic do they want? You know, and really work with them. And so this is an example of a concept that is not in store yet, so thank you, Tim, for letting us talk about it. But one of the things that we talked about was the potential of using video or, you know, triggered motion video to do testing, to show and demonstrate the actual units themselves, to have a call to action or a QR code, to, you know, to have a takeaway piece, because it is complex, and, you know, you want people to continue to think about this. And so if you go to the next slide, so this is now in review with Home Depot, and there we are. That's our case.
Thank you, Maura.